Welcome everyone to OCHATO, the fortnightly podcast where we drink tea and review manga. I am Jade.
I am Oliver.
And I'm Suellen.
Every 2 weeks we pick a manga that one of us has recommended and we read up to a certain number of chapters and discuss the manga with a megaton of spoilers. This week we are reading Nana by Ai Yazawa. And we're reading up to chapter 8, which is a huge change from chapter 24, which I think we said was the chapter that we'd get up to in the last episode. But we all lead busy lives, and as such, we have read up to chapter 8. Unless there are those of you that have read onwards.
I got keen and read to 12.
Oh, that's great.
Was that not our soft target?
I'm proud of you.
Isn't 8 our soft target?
8 was our soft target.
Yeah, sorry, I keep getting confused. Okay, yes.
So this was recommended by me. And in this episode, we're going to find out what it's like to have friends. But before diving in...
Jane, you can't just hit us with that.
What?
I mean, from the point of Nana... From the point of...
I said that sooner. I don't know what
Just roast everybody on the podcast.
Am I only here because I'm doing this podcast? Not because what?
I love you guys. I promise.
So Jade's like, I see you only as tools to read manga.
Full disclaimer, Suellen and Oliver are both my friends, and I have many friends, and friends are part of my life. Sure. I know friends.
I don't know, I'm not sure after that.
I have at least 5, okay?
But before diving in, we must know the answer to the most important question. What is everyone drinking in their mug?
I've mixed it up this week, actually. It's chamomile. None of this decaf English breakfast.
What prompted the change?
I'm having less caffeine lately because I was like shaking at work, which is not a good way to be. So I've discovered I quite like chamomile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've gone the opposite way of you. I've ramped it up and having English breakfast. I think it's caffeinated.
Oh, wow. And we're having a later episode than normal.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
It's good.
Yeah, I am drinking the Puka lemon ginger and Manuka honey because I feel like I am about to get Freshers flu, and I'm doing everything I can to run away from getting Freshers flu.
Okay.
So, yes.
I mean, that's definitely the right tea.
Yes, and also I have never been able to deal with caffeine that well. I am in awe of you guys.
Deadly. It's not a healthy addiction.
In first year, I was actually shaking trying to do all-nighters and finish problem sheets and prepare for ICAs. And I was like drinking 5 cups of coffee because I didn't know what moderation was with coffee. I didn't know that caffeine was a thing.
How did you live?
I mean, okay, when I first started uni, I knew nothing. I tried to, you know how onions have their coats?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I didn't know that you had to remove the coat before you fried the onion. So I fried the onion with its coat on in the pan.
That is exactly the kind of chaotic energy I've come to expect from you, Jade.
Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, so as I said, this week we're reading Nana, and I will now read aloud the official description from Viz Media. So, Nana Komatsu is a young woman who's endured an unending string of boyfriend problems. Moving to Tokyo, she's hoping to take control of her life and put all those messy misadventures behind her. She's looking for love and she's hoping to find it in the big city. Nana Osaki, on the other hand, is cool, confident, and focused. She swaggers into town and proceeds to kick down the doors to Tokyo's underground punk scene. She's got a dream and won't give up until she becomes Japan's #1 rock and roll superstar. This is the story of 2 20-year-old women who share the same name. Even though they come from completely different backgrounds, they somehow meet and become best friends. The world of Nana is a world exploding with sex, music, fashion, gossip, and all-night parties.
Strong.
Love it.
Yeah, I nearly read the buy now button.
Buy it now.
Wow.
um, okay, so this manga was first published in the year 2000. So, what were your first impressions?
Well, for me, I heard a lot about it already. So I guess I had a bit of an expectation. All I knew about it was that there are two girls, and that it's a series about their friendship. So at first I thought Junko was the other Nana. I didn't know the gimmick is that they had the same name, so I thought Junko was the other girl, and somehow she cut her hair short in the future. But but I think upon reading the first few pages, I think I was a bit like, is this going to be another problematic shoujo manga? Because here we have a high schooler cheating with a 29-year-old. I mean, is this
Yeah,
Yeah.
around that age.
yeah, but I think like my impressions of it got a lot more better afterwards, and it really surprised me. So, but my initial impression was, where's this going? Are we really going to normalize this basically underage grooming?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
not acceptable.
yeah.
For my part, I knew nothing about Nana until earlier today when I started reading it, because I've had a very busy couple of weeks. So I've literally I read all 12 chapters today. It was fun. It is definitely not the kind of thing I'd read normally. I did think actually at first that it was going to go kind of like Kuzuno Honkai, or Scum's Wish in English, which might be on a podcast at some point. It might not be suitable. We'll see. Yeah, but I ended up really enjoying it so far. So yeah, initial impressions good.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. So, for a bit of my history with this manga, I first read this when I was around 12.
Oh, dang, bruh.
This is an old one. And I really remember this as, one of the ones that struck a chord with me back then. But again, with Oyasumi Punpun, it's like I come back to it years later and I feel differently about it. And I attribute this to just growing up, learning and questioning things more often. So now I'm reading this and realizing that there are certain aspects that I like and certain aspects that I really don't like. And I do realize after reading it now that a lot of things in this manga have become a bit outdated.
Very related, actually. So you said you first read it when you were 12.
Yeah.
We've now finished uni, so we're like life-wise kind of beyond the point that Nana and Nana are. How do you find that's affected your experience of it?
I feel like when I was younger, I used to look at media and stories with older characters as sort of not a life aspiration, but kind of like a glimpse of what life could be like, if that makes sense. But now that I've kind of crossed the bridge and I'm over on the other side and I'm looking back at them, I'm thinking they're so young. Like it's like 20. I mean, we're not far off from 20, but like still it's like looking back and seeing their life and it's like, yeah.
There
What about
are
you?
a few like very kind of 18-year-old mistakes that are made, and earlier
Yeah.
as well in it.
I actually agree with you. When I was 18, I definitely wasn't as mature and, knowledgeable as I am now. And like some of the things that I thought and probably you said as an 18-year-old were similar to what, Nana Komatsu did or said when she was younger. So it's like I can kind of see myself in them, but I also know that they kind of grow with the manga, I think. Speaking of characters, what did you think of the characters and how well do you think they fit into the story and the plot?
I like the characters. I like the two different worlds that Nana Komatsu, which is the kind of a cutesy one, versus Nana Osaki, who's the punk one. I like that they have the different worlds and their different friend groups, and that most of the side characters that are friends with either one of them directly are decently fleshed out. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought that Nana and other Nana were the same person for a good like chapter and a half. I thought it because right at the start, right, Nana gets dumped. So Nana Komatsu gets dumped, and she cuts her hair, and I'm like, okay, this is clearly a theme that she's getting dumped, or like these relationships just aren't working out. And I thought she'd just gone like, right off the deep end. She's like, I'm going to dye my hair, I'm going to cut it short, I'm going to go completely punk because of all these failed relationships, not because she's really into punk and it's actually a completely different person. So it took me a while to realize that they're different people, which actually has been a recurring theme for my reading, where a lot of the characters fit into like a group, right? Like you've got your punk group, but I'm kind of struggling to tell them apart. I do like them all, but it's a little tricky.
Yeah, I guess like with the I guess this is more like an art comment. I guess some of them like you can tell that drawn by the same mangaka, but it's like sometimes it's too similar almost. Like the only difference like between characters are the hairstyle, I found sometimes. But for me, like it hasn't yet been a struggle to differentiate between the characters. And yeah, I guess story wise, I mean the character themselves, I think I agree with you, Ollie, where I found them all sort of all fleshed out quite well and believable, and it's not like they're just sort of some kind of gimmick or on the sideline to support the two nanas.
Yeah,
They
strong.
definitely have their own, yeah.
Yeah, strong agree on the like they seem very much like their own people with their own kind of wants and desires.
Yeah.
On your point about kind of the hairstyles being the only different things, I found it particularly weird after having read Delicious in Dungeon, where in the like in between chapters, they say to make sure that your characters are all distinct, you can have them like switch outfits.
Mm.
And I know that if they switched outfits in this, I would not be able to tell them apart whatsoever. If we had Nana Komatsu in Nana Osaki's outfit, or if you swapped like really any of them outfit-wise, I would definitely be struggling.
Like I found like the new bandmate Shin and also
Nobu?
Hmm?
Shin and Nobu?
maybe if they swapped. I
Oh
don't know.
no, they because to me they kind of look similar.
Yeah, maybe. But it's also like even Shin with her Shoji, right? Like even they were swapped. Shoji's head just a little bit puffier
Yeah,
than Shin's. Like, but yeah, but I guess it's fine. Like, it's a very distinct style of the mangakas, and
that it is.
yeah, and I think it doesn't distract the readers too much from the story.
Indeed.
But yeah, so character-wise, yeah, I enjoyed all of them, flaws and all, especially the main character, because I know some of her sort of ideology, or even the things that she has done are a bit questionable. But I think she is still sort of, because she's still young and trying to figure out, understand her own priorities, rather than, we can see that she's still sort of codependent on other people and sort of has associate her self-worth with whether she's in love or not, etc. But I can see that the whole series is probably going to be based on her development.
I wonder
Being
if later we'll get some justification for why each character is kind of the way they are. So, like Nana Komatsu, why is she so keen on having these different relationships? Was there something missing from earlier, or what? I'm interested.
the society. Yeah, because I feel like with her character, I feel like seems like someone who's like not a typical girl, but it's like something that we all seen on TV all the time, where like girls are like any sort of main protagonist of any sort of romance show or whatever, like the woman, at least in the olden days, I don't know about modern days now, but when I was a kid, it's always been like, oh, who's the next guy I'll have a crush on? Who is this guy the love of my life, or is this guy the love of my life, or is this guy? It's like, oh, it's almost like reverse Harlem where like you know who the main protag is going to pick, that kind of stuff. So I can see why like maybe the mangaka's sort of choice is, and obviously in real life a lot of like young girls probably also believing that, like, oh, like my whole, at least like younger age, even in high school, is all about, you know, finding your true love, or you, even if you like don't actively have a boyfriend, or in like an all girls school, like you still dream about it, rather than, oh, I want to be designer or something. I mean, like the focus is more on the relationship aspect. So I can see why maybe the mangaka's point is that, you know, there's, you know, more to life than just romantic relationships, and she's like, this is her way of sort of educating young girls. I can totally see that. But
yeah, so I know that at the beginning of the manga, Nana Komatsu is very young, and you know the way she thinks is still on a, you know, is still developing. Did you find yourself getting sort of frustrated or annoyed at the way that she thought, or were you like, oh, this is just, you know, she's young and, you know, she's from a small town with a small network?
Good question. In my case, I quite enjoyed that she wasn't just, you know, she clearly had some character flaws, and I think they led to some interesting situations and to some extent some character development, which for me I was really enjoying. Somebody made one of the characters described her as a puppy at one point, and that was very much the impression I got too. Like excitable, you know, she can go from like laughing to crying and back within the space of about 45 seconds.
Yeah, I think
Which is a fun way to be. Sorry, go on.
I think at some point I did actually start to feel a tiny bit pissed off, especially when her friends were trying to tell her stuff like, you know, this is a bad idea, like, or like, you know, you wanted this independence, you know, go out and seek it. But as you said, you know, she has her flaws and she's still learning and growing. And, you know, coming from a small town to a big city, I totally relate to that. And I think one day she will get there.
I believe in you, Nana.
Yes.
is this series still ongoing? As in, like, it's never really ended?
Surely not.
Because I saw it on the Wikipedia page or something.
It's on hiatus, I think. So I think the last volume was published in June 2009. So
that's a very long hiatus. Good lord.
Yeah,
it's 11
Nana
years.
Nana fans have been waiting for all this time.
Oh. Is that as bad as Hunter x Hunter?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
But answer to your question, whether you've ever been frustrated, I think I'm more, I guess maybe because I only read 8 chapters, so I sort of understand that she is still learning and progressing, because she is self-aware, being like, oh no, like I'm not good with my money, or like, oh no, I can't just rely on shoji and just, you know, sort of hang around slacking off and just being a housewife, right? Like she's too young for that, and she's also, you know, she is self-aware, so I can sort of forgive her on some blunders when she's still acting like, also like a, basically like a puppy who's like in need of attention. At least, you know, she is aware of it and trying to sort of be more independent. I think the character that not annoyed at, but I guess Shoji, like how he like cheated on.
Oh my god, that guy.
Bruh, okay, I have a problem with him since the beginning. Like, please chime in when you like feel like it. Yeah, because at the beginning when her and Nana were, or him and Nana were first alone in a room, he's like, "Oh, we can't be in a room because otherwise I can't help myself." I'm like, bruh. I'm like, bruh, like, come on, like.
You're better than this. I think they did make an interesting point. I'm not sure that I fully agree with it, where so after he cheats on her and they get found out, or he gets found out,
Okay.
And then some one of the friends is talking to Nana. I think it's Junko, and she's like, "Look, you weren't actually spending all that much time with him. You were kind of taking him for granted," which was definitely an interesting point, because at that point I was like, "No, screw him. You don't do that. That's just not acceptable. That's like the line you do not cross under any circumstance." And not that it excuses it in any way whatsoever. What he did is still unacceptable. But I thought they did make a good point that a relationship is a two-way thing. And the fact that she was kind of treating him for granted basically seemed to have led to him getting bored. Not that it diminished his feelings, but it meant that he went out and did that. Not saying it's her fault at all. It's very much his. But it was an interesting point, and I think I would imagine that will be something that will come up later on too, where relationships can't be one-sided in any way. They're a two-way thing. If you're in absolute awe of somebody, it's a bit weird for them. Similarly, if you're taking somebody for granted, it's not very fulfilling for them. So I wonder how much more we'll get on that.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting.
Because you can kind of see it that she's, ever since Nana arrived in Tokyo, she sort of, it's always been, she's solving her problems. I'm gonna get my house, I'm gonna get, everything sorted. And then, oh no, I met this new girl, her name, she has the same name as me, and it's about, oh, let's go to her live show, let's do this, and I'm gonna complain my problems to you. And then it's always been like quite one-sided, even though I don't agree with him. He's like, oh no, we're not gonna do it. What? how could you?
Yeah.
But it's like, bruh. But it's also, I get that, it's not just about doing it. It's about like whether he gets enough attention from her, right? Like, it's about, the fact that he's being taken for granted, in a way, neglected. But that's one thing. But the other thing is like the cheating. It's like, bruh.
You can't do that. Yeah, it's just not. It's too far.
What did you guys think about the whole Sachiko thing?
I love the gag. It was sweet and endearing until Sachiko actually showed up, and then it actually became a self-fulfilling prophecy, which was, it's a sweet, or like ironic. Actually, that's more, that's a better word for it. But yeah, I guess, Shoji, is great that you found your new love, but like, can you at least break off with Nana first, or figure out what you want first, then doing this, leading this girl on, and then making both girl hearts suffer at some point, right? Like,
Yeah.
Sachiko didn't have a good time at the beginning either, because she had to find out whilst they were on a date.
Oh, what a horrible way to find out too. That, oh mate, that scene.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
And the like when Nana was waiting afterwards, she waited ages, right, in the cold, and then he comes out with Sachiko, and I'm like, no, don't do this to me.
Heart-wrenching.
Oh. This is exactly the sort of drama I expected.
I actually really love the way Nana Komatsu handled it. Shoji clearly chose Sachiko, and Nana Osaki was like, Nana, aren't you gonna fight? He's your boyfriend. Try to salvage it. But Nana Komatsu was like, I don't even want this anymore. Like, I'm going to walk away. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, same.
It's time to move on.
Yeah.
That's also probably, like, for Shoji, the most damaging thing she could have said.
Yeah.
Because, having two people fight over you is not fun, definitely. But it's like, hey, I'm kind of wanted. Whereas if somebody you care about is suddenly like, nah, I don't want them in my life.
Yeah.
That's got to hurt. Which, honestly, at that point, I was like, yes, he deserves it. Fuck this guy. I was displeased with Shoji.
Yeah.
It's like at the beginning when he's like, oh, like, I want to marry her. I don't think he wanted to marry her for the right reason either, because he's like, oh my god, my job is not great, and my stress about, did I read it wrong that he tried to apply for 2 years in a row or something, and he only got in like he failed 2 times or something, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, you know, this is not going well, but like the only stability I have is Nana, you know, I must like lock her down. Like, yeah, I don't think, I mean, they're still young, obviously, like maybe for some people that's like too young to get married anyway, but it's also like the whole relationship is just never gonna work anyway. I feel like they're just there to have someone. I mean, at least in Nana Komatsu's case, like she just sort of fawns over anyone.
She did actually say quite an interesting line where she was talking to other Nana and she was like, "No, you're a friend," or something like that, implying that it meant a lot more than being a boyfriend. She's like, I can't remember what the actual line was. It's like, "No, you're not my boyfriend. You're much more to me than that," which I guess kind of shows what she was thinking of relationships as being at that point, which at that age, absolutely fine, you know. But it wasn't like, here's somebody that's like my best friend and my lover and somebody I want to spend ages like the rest of my life with. It's like, here's somebody that's, you know, interesting, and you know, I guess to some extent there's like cultural pressure for it too. And it's not somebody that you dislike spending time with, but they're not actually that close.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting point.
How do you feel about Nana Osaki when, you know, their lives collide and they meet each other and it's like, ah.
I love her.
Yeah.
Man, she's like that cool friend that you meet.
I am the cool friend. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's definitely a breath of fresh air.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like the almost complete opposite, because she's the one who's like, no, I want to make, I have a clear direction coming to Tokyo, not just like Nana, who's like figure it out as she goes along with it. She already knows why she's in Tokyo and she's gonna go for it, girl. Like,
yeah. I'm interested to see what Nana Osaki, I'm just going to refer to them by their surname from now on because it's going to be easier. I'm interested to see what Osaki's kind of problem that will cause her development later is. I know there's something that's clearly popped up around chapter 12 that I won't spoil because we were only meant to read up to chapter 8. But after that, I'm interested to see how her character develops, because while Komatsu like clearly has things that she can kind of learn from and change and improve about herself, Osaki seems a lot more, I guess, comfortable is maybe one of the words. You know, she's got a lot more confidence. She's got a more coherent, consistent group of friends, I would say, and she's got a plan. So yeah, I'm interested to see what her issues are later.
yeah, same.
Yeah, because there was the whole thing with Ren, and I guess for her it must be so like gut-wrenching at times to, you know, your ex-boyfriend is in a successful band, you know, the posters are up everywhere and reminders of him are everywhere, and you know, it must be hard for her to kind of be confronted with this reality now. I mean I know it's been a year, but I could tell that sometimes she kind of not freezes up, but it does affect her sometimes whenever
Definitely.
Ren is brought up, or you know, when Komatsu is like, oh my god, I'm Trapnest's biggest fan and stuff like that, and Osaki is just like, yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, it's when like somebody will say something like that and then you'll just get a close-up of her face in like inverted colors and you're like, ah, yes, the emotional damage frame.
Yeah.
Speaking of inverted colors, what did you think about the art in Nana?
Yeah, I think at first I wasn't too sure about it. I guess I can forgive it because it's quite an old manga, because the people are a bit weirdly drawn, like the whole body. But once like past the first few pages, when you're actually seeing, when it's more focused on headshots and such, and you're sort of getting used to the design, I think I like it. Because I don't know, I just like the way they're drawn. Like I've already become like already associate these characters with that type, like, you know, with the art. So it's like I'm already attached to them. So I can't really. I'm already biased, so I don't have really like huge sort of criticism about it. There's one thing that I guess I could mention, like sometimes when the faces are at like a certain angle, it's a bit weird where like the forehead is like 50 times bigger than the rest.
It's true.
It just happens like once or twice, but I think rest of the time it's like, it's got the art style, like it does have this like a nostalgia feel to it because it's like olden days manga. But yeah, I love the comedic gags, how it's drawn, and I actually really like Osaki's fashion sense.
Strong.
Cool. Yeah.
Why is it that all shoujo manga have the same kind of style? Every shoujo we've read, I've been like, I can tell without knowing anything about the plot or story or characters that this is a shoujo.
Yeah. It's to do with like the few famous like mangakas, I think that, and then the rest of the mangakas are all inspired by, they all have the same inspirations, I think.
I think in my mind, I kind of separate shoujo mangas into kind of 2, maybe 3 types. One is like roses and flowers and like lots of cutesy moments, and the second type is like night sky pondering, wistful shoujo manga.
Only somebody that has read far too much shoujo.
I confess. Yeah.
But on the art style in general, yeah, it was okay. I thought it worked well for what it was trying to do. I thought it worked really well for the funny moments and the sad moments and the general like character expressions. I was struggling to tell some characters apart. Might be me, and we have been kind of spoilt by like Witch Hat Atelier, Purple Hyacinth, Berserk. So I don't know. Maybe the standards for me have gone up. Fine. Yeah, it didn't really get in the way of me enjoying it.
What about you, Jade?
Yeah, so I think I'm quite used to this because a lot of manga that was published around the same time that this was first published was, I was used to that sort of style and that sort of way of drawing people and places and scenes. So I wasn't too put off by it. And oh my god, I love Osaki's outfits. She looks so stylish all the time, and it's just something about pairing thigh-high boots with like black mini skirt with a leather jacket and multiple earrings, dark lipstick, short black hair.
It's a good look. It's a good look.
Yeah, we should cosplay as Nana Osaki. Yeah.
I need the skirt.
I'll mail you my skirt, Oliver.
Oh, thanks, Jade.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it struck a good balance between describing what the scenes were kind of like, and also the characters' facial expressions. When Nana Osaki is kind of in disbelief at what Nana Komatsu is saying sometimes, it's like, you're gonna do what? Huh?
Yeah.
The wide-eyed kind of like, you mad look. Yeah. I feel like the drawing style has got a lot of emotion and character in it that really kind of seeps through and adds to the story, I think.
Also, given the type of manga it is, as in it's really about people and their relationships, I think what it's good at works really well. Sure, there are scenes where I'm like, I have no idea where you're standing or where you've gone to walk, but it doesn't matter. It's not about where they're standing; it's about the conversation they're having, and that is what shines through. So I do think it works well.
Absolutely. So one theme of Nana is leaving somewhere and finding your place in a new situation. You're making new friends, meeting new people, and this is very much a central theme of what this manga is about. And there are a lot of other central themes in Nana as well, and the whole core of this story is centered around the relationships between these 2 young women and their separate relationships, but also very much integrated relationships. What were your thoughts on the core themes and just the broader outlook on the story that's contained inside Nana?
Well, Jade, I have lived my whole life in London, so I can't comment on the like traveling to a new area and like
Uh-huh.
actually trying to make a life there. I
Uh-huh.
imagine that when I do eventually move out seriously, it will strike a new chord with me. But I have very minimal comments on that. As for the relationships, um, I thought it did well to portray the different types of relationships you can have, not just romantic, but the friendships and even the different types of friendships you can have. I also found it really refreshing to have characters that weren't, they all seemed like pretty normal to some extent. I could totally see like really any of the characters in the manga existing in, reality and not struggling to fit in, which may actually be a first based on what we've read so far. Let's see. Yeah, looking through the list, like none of the characters, except maybe some of the ones from Oyasumi, I could, I could see like functioning in modern society. Whereas
Are you
every single
serious?
one of them, I could.
Guts.
Wow.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Come on, which had Telly?
I mean, they're all lovely, but they're also witches.
Ah,
No,
they already
but
have that.
my point is, I like that they have the different types of friendships, and that if you were to bring any two of the characters along, they could at least have a conversation without it being just super weird. And I don't want to say manga-y, but you know what I mean when somebody's got a particularly strong personality trait, and
Ah,
that's like
they're
the
not so.
dominating feature
Yeah.
of every interaction they have with everybody. I don't really have that many comments on the core themes, given that I haven't, gone to a new place and met loads of new people. Like uni kind of counted, but it was still London. So yeah, enjoyed, but can't comment on that much.
I think for me is I just, even though I guess in a way I'm in the same boat as Ollie, like I haven't quite moved out yet and I haven't had the struggles of like, oh my god, paying rent and such. I like that the manga is exploring that, where it's like you know, like you said, the different type of relationship you had, different type of people you can meet, and what it's like to sort of live with, someone as interesting as Osaki.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the whole impression of the manga for me is that it's very sort of, it can be very heartwarming, especially the sort of the banter between the Nana and the Nana, Nana
Okay.
and Nana. God, I just love it. I just multiple times in this manga, I just laughed out loud, and which is great because that makes the sort of the more emotional sections even more, makes the more emotional moments more impactful, because you have this rise and fall of like good times and also bam, you've been cheated on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think for me it's like living like in an apartment with your like good friends and you're hanging out in like the same place. It's like in a way like a dream of mine. I know it's like it's going to be like probably a lot more frustrating in real life probably, and it's a lot harder to get everyone around the same place, but in an ideal world I feel like that's quite sweet, because when they all sort of waking up and like in the same place and all like, oh yeah, let's go to a live show next, and it's you can just do that in a second because they all live close to each other. It's very cute.
Yeah. Oh god, shout out to the fact that Nana and Nana like actually get along,
Yeah,
even though they live together. So refreshing.
it's so cute, like to watch them, their sort of daily bands. The one bit I just vividly remember is when, I think this is another point, like this manga uses running gags really well, even like it's just like short running gags, like it catches me off guard. Like we mentioned this Sachiko one, that was hilarious at the beginning, but then it came true and it was heart-wrenching. But then there's also this small one where it's like when they were talking about what instruments Komatsu can play, whether she can join a band, and she's like, oh, I'm the best at tambourine.
Yeah.
And then when she was going to sleep with Osaki, and they were like, has a few panels of them like falling asleep, and suddenly Komatsu was like, are you missing a tambourine girl? And she's like, no. Oh, that made me chuckle. But yeah, I think really heartwarming, and the themes, even though I can't completely relate to, but I like the friendship part of it, and yeah, I'm a sucker for found family.
What about you, Jade? Because you've probably had the experience closest to Nana of the three of us.
Yeah. I feel like it's a bit like a mirror into my world.
Ooh.
Way less love, way less sex.
Damn.
But a lot of like the kind of friendships and relationships to people that start to develop, I really related to. And yeah, so I feel like this manga sort of paved the way for friendships between people who seem like they'd have opposite personalities at first, but they actually get along. And I really love that Nana and Nana have this special relationship. And I think I seem to remember when I first read this at age 12, I read a lot more than 8 chapters. And I seem to remember that they stick together through thick and thin, and they're always there for each other. So it's very, very heartwarming. And I just love the vibe that this manga gives off. So yeah. So on this manga, we have a segment where we take a character
on this manga.
On this.
Oh no!
What have you done, Jade?
On this podcast, we have a segment where we take a character or characters from the previous manga and put it into the manga that we are currently reading for this episode. And last episode, we reviewed Purple Hyacinth on Webtoons. And let's see if we can put Lauren into Nana. How do you think she would fare?
Oh, that's a good one, actually. That's a very good one. Wow, because Lauren's quite a complex character as it goes anyway, given the whole like childhood trauma thing that she's got going on, the being able to tell lies. Would she still have the ability to tell when somebody's lying?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I think she'd work really well as like the touchstone for many characters, where she's the one that basically roots through when people are just talking bullshit, basically. And she tries to be the grounding force, but really needs somebody that will talk to her as well. So I think she'd work well for characters to bounce off.
Yeah, I feel like because she's basically a human lie detector. And, I feel like she'd be handy for Nana Komatsu when she's dealing with any guys. Being able to like tell them, cut the bullshit. You're not actually in love with Nana. You're just using her, or like, I don't know, helping with situations and relationships. Probably, I can see her doing that. But I find that Lauren's more level-headed than Nana Komatsu, and I feel like I don't know if a kind of trio of friendship could work, because Nana and Nana, the two, are already so cemented, and just adding Lauren might, I don't know, I feel like Lauren's similar to Nana Osaki in a way.
Yeah, they have the kind of the drive.
What if we bring in Kim?
Kim would work beautifully.
Yeah.
I honestly, if she was nicked straight from Nana, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Or what about Kieran?
He'll be the heartbreak.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but like the what's the other heart racer?
Heart racer. Oh,
Heart racer.
Like I think, come on,
that jawline. Oh,
would like 1 second of seeing him, she'll be drooling on the floor.
Yeah. Maybe he actually is the guy from the start.
No,
hot
come
take.
on. No.
And that's why he's never around, because he's busy doing these mass murders, apparently.
I love that.
I think Lauren, even if she's not friends with like let's say she's in Nana, but like I feel like her subplot would be her navigating relationships, even though she knows sometimes partners might tell white lies. I don't know, like she's trying to understand, like, is this what relationship is? People lie to each other, or is it you can have a stable relationship, where people are being honest and truthful and like.
Oh, I like that. That's a good take. Yeah.
Like I feel like people could explore that idea as like a legit manga.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That could absolutely be a manga on its own.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
when you have somebody that's like, I don't know, maybe they're just not feeling fun that day and they don't want to hang out despite like you two dating, but they're not
Mm,
quite comfortable enough with you to be like, look, I'm just not feeling it,
yeah.
and yet still be comfortable with you. So they tell the lie that they're busy, and then you're like, do I press them on this? Yeah, oh, I want to read that now. That'd be good.
Do you guys have any final thoughts on Nana the manga?
I think that coming in again as a guy that just doesn't read shoujo, as somebody that's past like 18, I think this is definitely one of the best ones you can pick up because these characters are, to some extent, greater or lesser, fairly mature. You know, most of them, like I said earlier, you could stick pretty much any two of them in a room and they could at least like have a chat. It wouldn't just be overwhelmed by one single personality trait. So I found it quite refreshing in the world of manga to have some relatively normal characters. I'm not sure if that's normal for shoujo, but I enjoyed it.
Would you read again? Would you continue reading more?
I mean, I've already gone 4 chapters over our target. I intend to go a bit further, although I would quite like it to be finished first. I could see myself getting very like attached to it and then just being really annoyed that there's never any like resolution.
Yeah, I feel like it's maybe starting to get to the point where people have started finishing the manga themselves.
Ah, not good.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, for me, I share the same sentiment where it's like, I really enjoyed it. I'm already grown. I didn't expect to grow like attached to the characters, but they just all, because they're so sort of real and three-dimensional. Um, I can't wait to see more of them and how sort of they all live together, especially the two nanas, like how they're gonna, um, you know, live through hardships and you know, and I just love the dynamic. Can't
Yeah.
wait to support them.
In fact, sorry, just to add to that a bit more, given that the only other shoujo-y thing we've read on here was Princess Jellyfish, and I know like any one of the characters there was like weird enough, except maybe the main character and I can't remember who the other one was. You know, the cross-dressing guy who was great fun.
Yeah.
Like, I'd probably stick him in a room with anybody, but like all of the rest of those in the nunnery were just a bit too weird. They were interesting as characters, but not
Mm,
particularly mature emotionally, which was kind of the point. But
mm,
it's refreshing having relatively emotionally mature characters in a manga.
mm.
So this manga has been around and been a part of my life when I was younger. And it's hard to deny that Nana's had a huge impact on people. Like it's won awards and some volumes have been bestsellers. And my friend even named their dog Nana. It's had such a big impact on people's lives. And I love that I got this chance to sort of come back to it. And I also love that you guys are so open minded to give this a go and, at least try,
That's what we're
with
here for, Jade.
shoujo
That's the point
manga
of the podcast.
before even knowing anything about it. Yeah, it's really great to be coming back to this. And then ideally I'd want to see Nana Komatsu happy. I'd want to see Nana Osaki
Please.
successful in her own band and a really amazing vocalist and just belting out those tunes. And I'd love to see all the side characters get their happy endings as well.
I'd also really like to see Osaki kind of get some resolution with Ren, so that they're in like similar roles, but comfortable with whatever their relationship is at that point.
Yeah.
She deserves justice.
That would be really interesting. Thank you guys for this episode of Nana. What are we reading next episode?
It's my recommendation. The Girl from the Other Side by Nagabe.
Nagabe?
Nagabe.
Never heard of this before. What's it about?
It's about two worlds, the outside and the inside, and a little girl is involved. That's all I'll say.
Okay, that sounds a lot like Stranger Things at the moment.
Yeah, we're reading up to including chapter 20 if people have time.
Perfect.
If not, don't worry. And yeah, I thought we're reading this on Halloween night, so it's not spooky, but it's got this, you know, autumn feel to it, in my opinion. So,
Beautiful. I think the episode will be out quite a lot later than Halloween,
yeah,
but
definitely.
the recording at least will happen on Halloween.
Yeah, the already from the cover, it looks quite good. So I'm really excited to read this.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of OCHATO.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Woo!